So there is a doctor in Utah, Dr. Kirkmore, who is a plastic surgeon who's charged with allegedly running a fake COVID shot card operation during COVID. He would destroy COVID shot vials to the tune of around $28,000, I think, and he would inject patients with saline. To their knowledge, as far as I can understand, I think people came to him expressly for this purpose. And parents came to him to inject their children with saline, that kind of thing. He would give them a fake card and they would give him cash that he seemingly would pocket, or they would make a required donation to a charity that he was apparently a part of. And Marjorie Taylor Greene made a post calling him a hero today, and all of the comments were like-minded people to me calling him a hero. And I have to say, we can't be so loosey-goosey with the way that we use the term hero. This man, Dr. Kirkmore, is not a hero. I don't want him to rot in prison. Apparently he's facing like 30 years. To me, that's crazy, but this guy is not a hero, okay? He's not a hero for handing out fake COVID shot cards and pocketing money. The real hero in a situation like this would be someone who actually stands up and says enough is enough. And it's funny because there was a little demonstration yesterday outside the courthouse where this trial is taking place, and the Utah House Speaker, Mike Schultz, actually said, spoke fondly of Dr. Moore and referred to people who stood up and said enough is enough. And that's precisely what this doctor didn't do. What this doctor did, and what anyone who came to him did, and what anyone who made their own fake card did, was they made it look like they were complying without actually standing up to anything. They made it look like they were complying for their own personal gain. They didn't actually stand up to the powers that be and say, we're not going to do this. And that made it a whole hell of a lot harder for people like me who actually did stand up. I refused to take the COVID shot, and I live in one of the most liberal areas of the country. And we had vaccine passports for 6 months. And that was not easy. It especially wasn't easy because I tried to go back to work early. I could have stayed on unemployment, but I wanted to get off unemployment and go back to work, help get us back to normal. If you recall, at the time, people were begging for employees, especially in food service, which was the industry that I was in when COVID came down. And I lost so many opportunities. I had to leave jobs. I had one awesome interview with people who loved me. And the very last thing they said after like 40 minutes was, we're going to need a COVID shot card. And they didn't say it like it was any big deal, because we're in the middle of LA and a lot of people just took the shot. And I knew they were going to offer me the job, and sure enough, they did over email a couple hours later. I told them where I stood, and I wasn't about to make a fake card, and they rescinded their offer. I finally found a job waiting tables, and that was a whole crap show for itself because we were still under COVID restrictions. We could only seat like every other table in the building because, science. So a lot of people would have to be forced to sit outside, or would want to sit outside because they were nervous, even though they were out to eat. It would be in the middle of summer. It was hot. We had to follow all these restrictions. And I had my boss pressuring me to do something about the shot because the owner was pressuring him. And I finally had to leave that job and just say enough is enough. And even if I hadn't made the decision to leave that job, I would have been laid off months later, because that's when the COVID vaccine passports came down. And you couldn't go into a bar or restaurant and be indoors and be served or work in one if you didn't have the card. And like I said, I was going to make a fake card. So I'm no hero, not even close. But that wasn't easy, and that was actually standing up. I didn't comply or look like I was complying just to make things easier for myself, just so that I could get mine and make sure I was taken care of. When more people make a show of force, say we're not going to do this, we're not going to be bullied around, we're not going to be forced to do these things with our bodies that we don't want to do, that makes it easier for everyone else who's standing up. There's strength in numbers. And it's true of the COVID shots, it's true of the mask mandates, it's true of anything, even beyond COVID. When people stand up together, the powers that be, eventually there's a tipping point, they have to back down. But when people kind of sneakily don't really comply, but kind of look like they're complying, they make the fake card, they get the saline injection, that helps no one. It only helps you. So, no, this man's not a hero. He doesn't deserve prison time, but not even remotely a hero. I understand that everyone was in a different situation during COVID and people felt like they had to do certain things. I'm not in your shoes, whatever. I'm simply saying that it wasn't a walk in the park for me to stand up and say no. And it would have been a hell of a lot easier if you had stood up and said no with me. So I can't call someone who got a fake card or handed out fake cards, especially for his own personal gain, any type of hero.